All right, so let's call this meeting to order. It's 5:35. And get the show on the road. I hope everyone's taken the time to review the charter as we're going to discuss some different revisions to it from our last meeting. We tabled it for review to allow us to have a more productive discussion on it. Let's go ahead and get things going. Right? Mm-hmm.
The increase with your dollar piece.
Just a second.
Here,
Yeah.
I have to get the agenda approved first.
Yes. Here.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing this evening?
Okay.
Has everybody had a chance to look through the consent agenda for this week?
No, not yet, please. It's the first page, right?
The whole thing is the agenda. Anybody have any questions, corrections, or comments so far? Motion to approve. Norm, motion, Jennifer seconds, all in favor? All against? Any abstentions? Okay, motion approved. Norm was the first and Jennifer was the second.
All right, good evening, everybody. Next on the agenda is try to review the LEAC, try to review, just go that. We got some on page 8. So we've been over that the last few meetings. I wasn't here the last meeting on the 8th. That's full, let's be safe. But, previous ones that were in, we did do some changes to the LEAC charter. And the changes related to like some of the roles. Same page 8, some of the roles from 1 to 2 years for our officer terms. Officers right now being so. Garrett is co-chairs and the secretary. And we did various little recommendations for additions. And other than that, we did have discussion on rules of engagement, we still want to adhere to, which means, be respectful for any comments and towards fellow members of the committee. And provide helpful, information that we don't have to take away. And at this point then, if you don't think we have anything to approve from the LEAC charter review, unless anybody has questions about our charter and what we're here for and what we can do.
Hi, everybody. My name is Victoria Kelly. I am with the Homeless Leadership Alliance of Pinellas. Thank you all for being here today. There are a few new faces, so I want to just really quickly talk about what we're looking at here. We have this group, this Lived Experience Advisory Committee with the Pinellas Continuum of Care, started meeting, believe it or not, about 2 years ago. I think next month is our 2-year anniversary in our very first meeting, which is really exciting. During the last 2 years, this group has met every single month, except for a couple. We had some crazy hurricanes and things like that interrupted some meetings. But this group has met every single month. This group has elected leadership. We have we have 2 co-chairs and a secretary. This group has participated in collaborative meetings with with other groups inside of the Pinellas Continuum of Care to have a really sincere impact on policies, procedures, and the direction of the Pinellas Continuum of Care to really aid the mission to end homelessness. One of the things that has helped this group focus on advocacy and really set its direction is the charter for this committee. This committee chartered about 1.5 years ago. The charter was written about 2 years ago and fully approved about 1.5 years ago. And over that year and a half, with all new things, we found some things that really, really worked. And we also found some opportunities to enhance what we're doing and enhance clarity. So the charter here is really just some of the ins and outs of the Lived Experience Advisory Committee. Our goals, our purpose, our expectations, and really just kind of setting the tone and the foundation for what this committee is doing so that the folks inside of this committee can move forward, having questions answered and knowing what the direction is. So we have shared some draft changes, some proposed changes to the charter, but there are other changes that maybe need to be made as well. So some of the changes that have been suggested are things like increasing leadership terms for our co-chairs and our secretary from 1 year to 2, and staggering those terms so that every year we are electing or re-electing a co-chair. This means that there is consistency in leadership. We don't have 2 new co-chairs starting at the same time every year. Instead, we have an established co-chair who is able then to help the new co-chair get used to what's going on, really set their direction for the year before we have another election. So those are just some of the things that we are doing here in this group. One of the other suggestions that was made by one of our co-chairs was that we've added information about how to become a member of this committee. One of the suggestions was also noting membership preference for recent experiences of homelessness. There are a limited number of members for this committee, voting members. We can have as many guests as we can fill this room with. But as far as voting members are concerned, we chartered a maximum of 20 voting members for this committee. And part of that is ensuring that we have really clear membership standards. And one of the suggestions recently was to add, again, just a preference, not a requirement, but a preference for a recent experience of homelessness. I think it's within the last 5 years, but that's definitely something that can be talked about here in this group. Does that make sense to the group? Does 5 years make sense to the group? Does 3 years make sense to the group? That kind of thing. So that's what we're looking at here with the charter. I know it is a big document and there's a lot to look at. Maybe today we're ready to make it suggestions and approval. Maybe this is still a conversation that we continue today and we take action on in July. But that is really just kind of the ins and outs of what's going on.
I just wanted to say that I agree with you as far as, having everything here, because when it comes to helping people out in the field, it's hard to do that without a roadmap and without a way to be able to do it. And that's, I think that's like really important as far as just the basis of having the group period. Because I've actually helped people.
And it's important. It's important to help people. That's why we're here.
Okay, last time we were together, we spoke about advocacy opportunities. And we asked for ideas or suggestions as to how can we advocate more effectively for people who are unhoused or homeless, and what type of resources are really needed, what is it that we're advocating for, and how to get that information to the people that need it. Has anybody come up with any ideas, suggestions?
I'm Kathleen Beckman, and I'm Chair of the Pinellas County COC Executive Board. And I'm so happy with the turnout today. I would say about advocacy, I'm also the chair of the advocacy committee for the COC, and any one of you can join us in our work on the advocacy committee. We meet virtually. One of the ways, and I met yesterday with a gentleman, his name is Dan McDonald, and he's a retired police officer from Tampa. He's actually he's British, he has dual citizenship. But he came here and he was their street outreach specialist officer, and he worked with people one-on-one. And I met with him because I said, Dan, how are we going to convince these communities in Pinellas County to put in some more money and to help with our homeless challenges and social services and all those things? And because he has a lot more experience than me, he suggested telling positive stories. And so telling about success stories, what worked for you in some aspect of your life, if there have been successes, that's really a good thing to do. He suggested that. I know that Jennifer Haycock is a friend of mine, and she would, when I was on the Clearwater City Council, she would come intermittently and tell her story of her struggles. This is when she was living, do you mind me saying that? When she was living in her car. And she and I were working on advocacy and telling her story, and she would come and get flyers and do all that work. But she's got a success story now. So Jennifer is permanently housed and things are good. So I think for people to, and you could, Jennifer, you could get up and tell both in your 3 minutes, right? I know, but you could get up and tell your story about what worked and how we need to continue these programs that are working. But I would encourage you to go to a local council meeting anywhere in Pinellas County. You know, whether you're currently living there or whatever, those elected officials need to hear from you about what's working, what you're seeing, and what you need, and they need to hear it from your heart. The last thing I'll say, I wouldn't want to dominate the microphone, is part of what the advocacy committee is looking at doing is in late summer through, November, maybe early December, is scheduling times to go to these council meetings in Pinellas County and telling our story about the COC and what we do, and having a firm ask from them, because it's in January that cities start to build their budget that they approve the next September. And okay, you volunteer to attend?
Got a lot, who knows it.
Okay, okay.
It just happened recently.
Okay. But remember, Whoppers are good. We got a write them down, we gotta practice them, we gotta make sure they're 3 minutes, because when that buzzer goes off, you're out. You know, I'm out, Jennifer's out, they're pretty firm. But that would be a good thing. That's my idea for advocacy. Let me go back to you.
I think what another good thing would be to, maybe like establish some kind of resource as far as like, I know you, Gary, I know that you have all that stuff up in your head. So when I went to help people, I just called you and it was like, and I had all the stuff, but I could send it right to them. But if I didn't have you, I wouldn't know what to do, what to do. You know, if I ran into somebody like that, I wouldn't know what to tell them.
But that's a project Phil and I have been working on, putting all that to cast to paper that can be distributed amongst
Yeah.
everyone in the committee. They'll have everything that I carry up here.
Yeah, paper, digitize something. If I had that in my phone or something, so I could pull it up real quick and be, oh, this is what we're in.
Either and or.
Yeah,
Isn't that the yellow resource book?
Yeah,
Okay.
but there's also some things that aren't in the resource, so never made it.
yeah. He's got some secret information up there.
There's a gap between what's in the book and how to make it work on. Yeah.
But while I have the mic, real quick, what I was living in my van and for almost 5 years until about 3 months ago. And the help that I got, and I had to sit and wait for it about over 2 years, because I got help from the Bully Center. And I got help not only from the Bully Center, but I also got help from Hope, Florida, which actually started last year when I went to the Family Cafe event in Orlando, which I'm going to, I'm going there this weekend. So, yeah, I stood up in front of 5,000 people. Hey, I'm homeless. I have a problem. So that's what started everything. And I'm actually still an active client, part of Agency for Persons with Disabilities over in Tampa. And yeah, I ran into a problem early this morning, and she actually was going to volunteer to take me out to Orlando so I could go to my conference. So.
Maybe a guess, but, I don't know much about this, but I do know that, things can be updated. That is not.
No, we have to be on the mic because we're recording this.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know much about this this organization, but I do know as other organizations, things should be updated every 6 months because things go out of date and things change throughout accountability. So I think everything should be updated every 6 months. That way everybody's on the same page.
And if it's digitized and I'll do it, it would make it a lot easier than that's.
Anybody?
The yellow book is digitized, so maybe, you could, it is, isn't it, linked? Yeah, yeah,
And constantly updated through websites.
okay. So maybe when people update it, they could just put a date, updated June 30th or something, so that everybody would know it's updated.
For what it's worth, thank you, Chair Beckman, for mentioning that. The yellow book, the resource guide, is digitized, and that is what the link on these resource cards link to. So if you have this resource card in hand, it will link to the digital homeless resource guide, just as a by the way.
Yeah, I do know that there's like a lot of resources that aren't in the book. I have been to different places. Like I have Salvation Army, Pinellas County resources, and it goes everything from agencies to like veteran services. This isn't the only one, and I have other ones that state, different services like for meal services, clothes for families, and like I have a whole like big stuff. And I know that's a lot, so that would probably be better like digitized than the most prominent ones, I guess, should be in the book. And So yeah, I would definitely be up for, like, I think that was one of my, first, committee meetings, for Clearwater, was I asked that all the resources be updated and, everybody come together. And so, yeah, that could be, team effort.
Digitized would definitely be better. It's quicker and easier to update when not like we're rushing to try and get a bunch printed out. But there's an ever evolving amount of resources. So yeah, being able to keep that updated digitally is better. We have several new hot meal places, just like Trinity Cafe, that are opening up in the next couple months. And, that's more information that needs to be gotten out and taken care of.
I really appreciate y'all getting these reports. Oh, Gary, okay. I appreciate y'all getting these resources together that we at HLA might not know about, and that is a part of being on this committee. What do you think is the easiest way for you to communicate that to us? Because if I send out like the link in an email, that might not get to everybody.
Right.
So suggestions are definitely welcome because we would love to get those updates in the book.
I would say that probably the easiest thing to do would be to start with the digitized version of the book. And then if it takes you and me to sit down at a computer or something, that's we need the stuff that's in his head. That's what we need.
That's a scary place.
Yeah. But I didn't know about the fact that was like that. So if we start with that and then start adding all the stuff that's in your head until that's done, then you have something to start from, and that's what can be masked with whatever, and then you just only have to just do basically what Phil said, was just update it every 6 months or whatever. I think that would be the most logical way to do that.
Oh, I just wanted to add, as far as like the resources and stuff, like, somebody or a few people could like go through and actually call the resources, to make sure that they're still, in service. And yeah, and, so yeah, I think that would be a good idea as well. To make sure we're not like putting stuff out there that, people said, oh, I called, but, nobody answered.
Right, thank you. But keep thinking about like ways you guys can communicate to me and Victoria what these resources are. Because if I send out an email with the link to update this information, sometimes some of you don't get it, and I understand. So if we could have some type of running list that we bring to meetings, I'm not sure. Start thinking about that because it's important that we have the most up-to-date resources.
Yeah, I agree. Not everyone can do the email. I'm one of them. Our phone just doesn't have enough memory. And I haven't figured out how to transfer things over to my SD storage app. So, phone, but, Jennifer was right. I made a lot of phone calls, and Salvation Army is really good. They have a building in downtown St. Pete called Social Services. It's all in one big building. They do showers, they do food, they do it all right there, and which is really great. St. Vincent de Paul, which is right down on Fifth, right on the corner, they do showers as well. They give you resources voucher to go into thrift stores that are downtown and elsewhere to get clothing. If Salvation Army has clothing, they will give them to you, but the same process there. Hot showers, but hot meals 7 days a week at St. Vincent de Paul's. And I actually wrote the information down to give to you all on the showers and the times and the food. And I'm waiting on some phone calls from some other places. You're welcome.
Okay, if I may, real quick, in the fairness of honesty and clarity, and I'm probably gonna get booed on this, but all the updated information, channeling it through you two ladies, sometimes it's a hard getting a hold of you. So that could actually add a speed bump into the updating of the information. So as I said, I'll probably get booed over that, but. Is that.
I think coming up with, so I was noticing in the agenda today and the other agendas when we come in, that there is, item number 5, resource sharing. And so that right there goes along with what Megan was bringing up, that this is a good, when we get together right now, this is a good opportunity, I think, of having some sort of form to collect that information, or, Victoria and Megan are back there typing away right now, tracking everything, that this is, we're tracking it right now. You may not get a call or a quick answer to a phone call. There are a lot of, we're a pretty small staff. So definitely though, reach out to me, reach out to Victoria, reach out to Megan. If you do have some resources, keep in mind that some things, like Gary was saying, change often. It is a monster of it's a big task going through every single resource and making sure that everything is up to date on a regular basis, like especially as often as things do change. And so we'll be keeping that in mind as well. But definitely, this is a great opportunity to get those resources together so that they're being, logged right now. I have to look back, make sure.
My suggestion would be that we need to make this a priority to get it at least done and as much stuff out of his head as we can, and then disseminate it to as many people as possible. So when a problem like that comes up where somebody doesn't have access to the internet or something, it's not really hard to do that. You just even knock 2 phones together with an NFC or something like that and just transfer it to other people. So I mean, if I run into him and if he had it or I had it and we ran into somebody like that who doesn't have access to the internet, there's always a way we can get it out to where everybody needs, so everybody's got that resource. I think I think it needs to be made a priority, so that's at least done as soon as we can, so we can get that, so everybody has got something. Yeah, that too.
While we are working on that, keep in mind, we do have something, a contingency. Ever since I became co-chair, everyone here has my phone number. So if we can't have something or the ladies can't get to it because they're dealing with a meeting, whatever, just like Silas did, you can always call the phone. You can ask, if I got the information, it's yours. Okay?
Norm understand.
This, Gary, I appreciate, but everybody's leaning on you awful hard. There should be something to give you a little break once in a while.
I agree.
One good resource for putting dedicated information for everybody would be a dedicated phone number. Everybody has phones and they can call. This would be a good place to put a lot of information on, including, all about resources, because this paper copy information changes. I already made corrections here. They are outdated.
That's why he said, question, call him.
So
I
a
got it.
dedicated phone number would be a good thing to establish, yeah. If they can't get online, right?
Can't get on.
Online is another dedicated way. You can put information on a website, a certain special website.
Okay.
I do agree with him that I should be getting something.
All right, yeah, there's a lot of relying on, but in the same token too, in all honesty, Norman, how many times do you answer the phone when I call? Two-way street.
Every time. If it ain't in a few minutes, it'll be a phone call.
I have a question about the resources that are in, the little yellow book. And, Norman, you were saying there should be a number other than Gary's number to call. How is it different? And I know I'm gonna get a collective groan about calling 211, but does 211 cite everything that's in the yellow book? It's just that you have to wait 3 hours to talk to somebody?
The information one is in his head, that's why.
Mhm. But I just didn't know what the difference was between what, somebody who responds on 211 would be other than what's in the book. I don't know if anybody,
That's a good question.
Sherry, do you know, or?
Thank you.
I have, my kids are trying to get, some help from the system right now. They both have small children. And they call 211 and all they give is no, 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 can't, won't, you know what I mean? And they have a hard time pushing through that. They are eligible for a lot of things. They're just, there's weather conditions, keep whatever, I don't know what the excuse is, but they have a hard time sorting out how to get through it. I'm attempting to help them right now, and without the help of Gary and some of the people on the committee here, I wouldn't know what. And when you come into a situation and you're not familiar with all this, you don't know where to start, and there's no clear path to success for people who are actually trying to do right. Seems like they have to be completely depleted of resources before anybody's going to step up to help them, and that's going to leave them flat on their face. It doesn't seem conducive to success for somebody who's trying to get up on their feet.
I would just add that the last time that I had experience with 211, they wanted me to show up and call them like MC Hammer. They want to have everything already done for them in order to be able to try to help you. If you weren't, yeah, you wouldn't have when first became homeless, they wanted me to have something lined up and everything done, but all this, and it was like, can't do that. And they, well, we can't help you. Click.
I know when I got my voucher and went through PIMS to help get assistance for the down payment and like help get into my apartment, like there was red tape. There was 211 wanted the inspection done first. However, the apartment complex wanted the deposit before the inspection would be done. And so there's red tape when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I had to just figure it out on my own.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, so definitely got to look at the red tape when it comes to the resources as well.
That's why I would reiterate that the Bully Center is a very good resource because of them being an agency and stuff. They're able to control the situation and had all that stuff done before any of the rest of all of that got done.
What about like a peer mentor, somebody who's been successful working through the system, like Jennifer, to offer advice to people who are starting through it? I don't know.
Absolutely.
How many here would say they've been successful? Yeah, you're insecure.
I got lucky.
Good.
I got
But
lucky.
Congratulations, yeah.
Yeah, if I hadn't taken the place that I did in March, I'd still be living in my van.
I find that a lot of people who own properties and would be willing to go through the voucher process, they have such a hard time or a slow time of getting their money that they opt out. And that closes a lot of doors for people that would normally be open. If that process could be sped up on that end, it would be huge for success for people that are trying to come up into that.
We're working on landlord.
I think having an agency like Bully, because I actually got discriminated against one time while I was during my 3 months of having my voucher and stuff. Having an agency behind you, trying to help you with that stuff, it actually helps with some of that because there's a lot of people that look sideways at you because you have a voucher because when you're on disability and you can't afford $3,000 a month for an apartment. It just, the math don't math. I mean.
I was just gonna say, with Silas, I was very, very blessed. There was a former coworker or a former employee of the HLA, after our first, meeting June 13th, at the Largo Library. And I'm very, very grateful to her, because if it wasn't for her, I guess she saw the work that I was putting in and the dedication that I had to like making this committee, and fighting for the unhoused. And like she referred me with, because I don't have children and I'm not a veteran and all that stuff, so I got a housing choice voucher for adults with disabilities. And I, thank her every time, like, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So God bless her. And so, yeah, I'm very, very grateful.
I wanted to, so about the vouchers, housing authorities, that's where we get our vouchers through typically, right? And so I know that right now, what's really good at Pinellas County Housing Authority, they're actually talking to us about some mainstream vouchers and getting us more in line, connected with those. One issue that we've encountered is that because of the way things are going at the federal level, those vouchers are becoming fewer and fewer available.
That's why I was told to take mine. If I didn't, I would think it would.
Exactly. So like Boley has actually reached out to me within the last couple of weeks asking, hey, are there any vouchers? We've gone throughout the entire county. I've reached out to behavioral health services to find out about their, sources that they have. Dana. And so that's something that is, it's a serious issue. But and just going back to what you were all talking about before, and Kathleen had mentioned around advocacy, talking about the need for those vouchers is an area to look at. But I also want to add that as far as like increasing the number of landlords who are willing to rent to people, that has been a big focus lately. We just had a work group of for landlord liaisons, for landlord incentives and housing specialists to get together and talk about different ways. We have a fund available for like if a family or an individual was to leave a property, we know landlords are really worried about that security deposit. And what if the damage is higher than what the security deposit was? And we know that people typically do not leave. We do not have the experience of people trashing a place and when they're leaving. Okay, that is a misconception.
And that's a big stigma.
It is a huge stigma. And so huge, it's wrong. It doesn't. So this is to give some peace of mind, because honestly, the fund doesn't get used very often. But just letting people know that is a big one. And so we've been talking about increasing it.
I could say that in general consensus with the vouchers, is we have to figure out a way to try to make it less of a pain in the ass, because it was brilliant. As far as the vouchers are concerned, like I was saying, we have to try to figure out a way somehow to make it less of a giant pain in the ass, because I can tell you from my experience, once I got my voucher, it was practically about impossible for me to, it was just, I got completely overwhelmed. And between all of the different problems that I had, if it wasn't for my Hope Navigator, like basically holding my hand and helping me with everything, I don't think that would have happened, and I wouldn't have gotten my apartment. It just wouldn't have happened. It was just, it's way too much. And when you're dealing with people who are looking at you sideways, when all you want is to have a roof over your head, and so you don't have to sleep in your van. I mean, it's gotta be made a lot simpler. I know that my experience, though I am grateful that I had my apartment, and I thank everybody about it. It was, yeah, I in the past 3 months, I've lost like 60 pounds in weight, and that's probably part of why. It was completely stressful.
When I attended Pinellas Hope, I was this FADAT program. And if for anybody who don't know, it pays first, last security up to $4,000 and for you to get set up in place. And I was only making $550 a week. And the lowest prices of apartment I could find was $1,500. There was no like efficiencies or anything available anywhere. And I was told by Pinellas, so take one of those $1,500, or you have to leave. And I couldn't see spending 3 weeks' pay on just rent when I didn't have any other checks or benefits. I would have to worry about power and water and insurance and car payments and food and one good flu and missing a week of work. And I would have been in a downward spiral that would have put me into eviction, and I couldn't see doing that. So I left Pinellas Hope still with us for that program, and there was just nothing. They said, well, you got to go. And there was nothing I could do about it. You know what I mean? And to have someone that is a counselor, like he said, to support you through that time and help you find the resources you need would be imperative to a lot of people who just don't know. And even if they do, the people they're talking to don't give them any credibility. They don't want to hear what they have to say. They look down on them. And, it's just, you're fighting an uphill battle.
Pardon?
And I can second that because during the hurricane, when I was in the shelter, the Red Cross refused to help me because of that, because I got two options that were basically a jail cell with doors. They wanted me to go to assisted living facility somewhere that I didn't need. And because that was not what I was looking for, they refused to help me. So he's right.
Pardon me, guys. Hate to be the killjoy here, but as ship's captain, I gotta turn this boat around. We need to get back on the discussion about how the LEC can and will advocate. We've kind of gotten lost our path a little bit, and we need to kind of steer back to the conversation on that.
Sure.
All right. All right. Who wants the mic next? Nobody?
Everything that we've been talking about is true though, because
It is, but we still need to stay on topic. Yeah,
I understand.
I'll give it to Victoria.
Okay. I want to note, I think that the conversation that is being had in this room, like a lot of the conversations that are had in this room, is the start of advocacy. It is the start of identifying an advocacy topic and goal. So with that in mind, and based on everything that has just been discussed within this room, can anybody give me maybe an idea for a topic that this group might want to tackle?
The stigma of homelessness. Because after the hurricanes and stuff, normal, that's a bad word to use, but, people that were housed, found themselves homeless. Like in my apartment complex, we have quite a few that came there after the hurricane because they lost their home. And, we need to address that, anybody can become homeless. Anybody.
Public needs to be made aware of that.
And also, actually, I have two topics. I have the stigma and then I also have the mental health. That needs to be addressed as well. Big time.
Excellent. And for what it's worth, so Chair Beckman, and we've talked about this in previous meetings, and Chair Beckman mentioned storytelling in the beginning. And Jennifer is talking about destigmatizing homelessness, showing people that homelessness can happen to anybody. Homelessness is not one type of person on one street corner that looks one type of way and has one story. So talking about destigmatizing and storytelling, I have to say, the stories that were being shared earlier are, I think, a great start to that process. Listen, this is a thing that happened to me. This is not who I am. And here's the experience that I've had before this happened, while this happened, or after this happened. That is really, really awesome. And I think a great connection to both Chair Beckman's idea and what has been discussed in this room so far. Do we have any thoughts on how we can destigmatize homelessness? 1, 2, 3.
To let the public know that it's not a certain person's bad choices necessarily that caused it, that you could be a good person, work all the time, do the right thing and still end up homeless. That would give them more compassion for you. They like to look at you, oh, that must be some drug addict retard who didn't do right. That's what they want to put and box you into. That's what happens to you when you make bad choices, when it's not necessarily the case. You know what I mean?
I would say that, I think it would be a lot more, I think part of the thing with the storytelling is getting that person who has to have a thick skin to be able to sit up there and do that and say, this stuff happened to me and this. It's not only that, it's getting that story in front of the right people. Because last year when I was at the family cafe, I told people like Rick Scott himself about this. He was like, I don't give a shit. And that's not right. But it's gotta be in front of the right people. It's the Surgeon General, the Rick Scott was there, and a lot of people were there. I tried to say something and I didn't get listened to.
What if we, so I used to teach high school English in Northern Illinois. What if we scheduled a meeting where we could people could work on writing a one pager of their story and get it down so it would fit into 2 or 3 minutes. Get it down so it's polished, so it's got what you want in there and it's your voice. And then you can choose what you want to do with that. We can send it into the Tampa Bay Times and the letter to the editor. I want you to know my story. I'm a person with a job. This is how much I make. This is the average rent. We can do a little research. I can help with all that. We can run a workshop and it'd be like 2 hours of, and you'd have some homework to do and you come here and we could work it out. But then the other thing we could do is if you did that for a couple of months and we got it the way we wanted it, or you got it the way you wanted it, we could invite a reporter to this meeting. And it could be, hey, the COC Lived Experience Advisory Committee has been working on how to tell their stories. And tonight they're having their rehearsal or practice. Have a reporter here. All those kids at Job Corps stood up. I was out there. Yeah, Sherry was gonna come, but yeah. But anyway, we were out there. It was like 95 degrees and kids got up and staff members got up and graduates got up of Job Corps and told their stories about how it worked for them and what it means to them. And there must have been, I'm telling you, there must have been at least 5 TV news reporters there filming that. And it was on the news and it's been on the radio and those stories got out there. Now, we can keep our fingers crossed that things will change. But when you tell part of your story, and maybe somebody doesn't want to tell a personal part, but maybe you want to tell, I don't know your name. What's your name?
Gary.
Gary. Maybe Gary wants to tell about how, look, my voucher covers this and I make this much money. So this is where a gap is. This is a problem that exists. And how are we going to solve it? So it doesn't have to just be, this is my life story, little thing in 3 minutes, but it can be, this is where the gaps are, a landlord liaison or whatever, or first month's, last month's, and all that business. But I'd be willing to volunteer, and I know at least 4 or 5 other retired teachers that are really good people that could help with that. So that might be a way to do it.
One story that I would like to see get out, if you can take any person working a full-time, well-paid job, take 3 or 4 paychecks out of their budget, just take them out. Not only can they not pay rent, they're not gonna be able to come up first, last, security, power deposit, water deposit, it's not gonna happen. So you can get hurt. Let's say you're out of work for a month. Guess what? You're now homeless. It can happen to anybody. This doesn't mean that somebody making a bad decision, making bad choices in their life. It can happen to anybody. A storm comes through, tree falls on your house. What are you with today's real estate prices? How are you gonna come up with that first, last, security and all that? What's it, like $5 grand now to get a 1-bedroom place now? That's crazy.
My name is Mary. I'm 70. I'm still an LPN. I go around and I help veterans and seniors for free. I'm on call 24 hours a day. I talk to numerous homeless people every day. There's this Maslow theory of hierarchy, which I've mentioned before, that I learned in psychology class, and you can actually see it on TV on the wall during a certain thing that comes on TV. You can't go to the next level until your basic needs are met. And it is to the point, because when I go to Gulfport to record the musicians at Pavilion number 6, there's a lot of homeless people in Gulfport. There's a homeless man over here that I bring food to. There's a few homeless people right here in this room right now. You need to go to them. I'm not really tech savvy right now and my computer's not working, but I really feel like it's to the point where some equipped people need to go out in the community and go up to the homeless people and explain to them who they are. They're not their enemy, they're their friend or an acquaintance. Let them do the talking, let them get it off their chest. A lot of people that are homeless don't want to hear about I, me, I, me. They are desperate. So if we could get a few people to go out to the community with their computer, with the resources, take the person by the hand, let them talk and get it off their chest. Let them get some basic resources, even if you have to have a van, a city van come and pick them up and take them somewhere. I've been at Pinellas Hope and Safe Harbor, had issues with a lot of things at Pinellas Hope. I did take a lady there about a month ago, 9 o'clock at night, a guy that I know that works in the office at Pinellas Hope lets people come in with a carton of soda and they're allowed to put beer in the bottom part of the carton. I still know people that live at Pinellas Hope. I know people that live in the back of Pinellas Hope. So this can be a very crooked world. Anybody can do crooked things. But I think it's to the point, like I said, talk to people at Gulfport, there's a man right over here, took him dinner last night. I'm around homeless people all the time. We need to have a few people, maybe a city van, county van, so a couple people that know what they're doing, go up to the person, explain to them that they want to help and help them with their basic needs. A lot of them are not tech savvy. A lot of them have flip phones. A lot of people don't know how to use the computer. A lot of people have been with Pinellas Hope and they don't ever want to go back. Like I said, 2023, I was at Pinellas Hope and I was at Safe Harbor. So I know, and I've been at every shelter. I've been a single mom. I've been at every shelter in Pinellas County. So we need to go to them and we need to let them talk. We don't need to dump on them. Thank you.
You're right. I agree with Barry, Victoria. What we have now is just some specialized groups like Bowley, and so a lot of people who become homeless don't qualify. We need a universal program where everybody, every individual will be able to qualify in some way for permanent owned housing. That's the only way to stay homeless.
I just wanted to respond to what you said. During my journey, I ran into nothing but roadblocks. I could barely change my mind. It was just, the thing that I experienced during my whole deal was sorries, platitudes, excuses, and no help. It was, and if it was on the phone, it would be those three and then click, or if I was trying to go get something from the side, unless you're of a really strong will, where it's nothing. For most people, it's just they're gonna give up. It was extremely difficult. I mean, I almost ended up in a rubber. If I was still in my van, I probably would have been committed because I just couldn't handle it anymore. I got to the point where I couldn't handle it. Yeah.
Adding to what he said, and as far as the county's ability to cut the number of homeless total in the area, to have more of a comprehensive thing for people who don't have mental illness or addiction that you could actually put up and they would stay up and they wouldn't be back homeless again. A universal way for people who don't have those kind of problems to step out of homelessness into success would be huge. And it would lower the overall number of homeless in the county and make, the county look great. in my opinion.
It's easy to beat, listen to it, to stop.
Just a friendly reminder, people, we all have a lot to say, but let's try to keep it around 2 or 3 minutes, something like that, so everybody has a chance.
So I'd like to, add to my talking about the destigmatizing the homelessness and getting more resources and support for mental health. I'm also an advocate for drug addicts and alcoholics because not everybody understands why people do drugs and alcohol. There are several reasons, and a lot of those stem from childhood. I'm one of those tough, thick-skinned ones that don't mind sharing my story. It's in the news today a lot, all the pedophiles, the sexual abuse against children. That needs to be addressed as well. And that's another reason why people do drugs and alcohol is because they have those memories from their childhood and they want to numb that. And we shouldn't look down on them for that, oh, they're a drug addict. No, they're a drug addict because they got molested by their father. Yeah, or no, it's just, I wouldn't, it's either, do drugs or take their life because they are tired of the PTSD and it going around and around in their head. And then there's also, chronic pain. Alcohol numbs the body, drugs numb the body. And we have our government, just like Mary said, we have our government that's in our healthcare to where we can't get the proper medication to address that chronic pain. And cheapest way, quickest way is right there at your local Wawa or Circle K or, so we can't judge them. That needs to be a part of the destigmatizing when it comes to like people that are on drugs and alcohol. So
There's some people that my brother willing to go for answers when he's dead.
One thing I've noticed that there's a lot of programs out there for drug, alcohol, mental health. But if you ain't got none of that, you're basically SOL. You're on your own. What the city could use is some drop-in centers, like when it's hot outside, they have a water fountain, and even if it's just sitting in some chairs, is get out of the heat. So especially now that the libraries are closed on Sundays, it's getting hot out there, and as it gets to August, we can get even hotter. We need to find someplace that we can do like a drop-in center.
Cooling.
And they can also have information based on what we have and spread it that way.
We have something similar to that they call cooling centers down here. When it really gets hot down here, they have that. Just a place that's air conditioned. You stop by, cool off, get some cooler drink.
Yeah, you can.
Like we had talked earlier about putting the information to update the booklet, there are quite a few recreation centers that have indoor air conditioning for people to go in, sit down. A lot of times you're allowed to eat, relax, and little games, things like that. It's not a place to live, but it is a place to go, and it's free, doesn't cost a dime. And I agree with everyone on this point. It's gonna take a lot of compassion to deal with homelessness, and if you don't have a heart, it happened to me. So if anybody could ever be homeless, you never know. You might wake up tomorrow morning and you're homeless for whatever reason. And that's a very scary thought. So I do have compassion for where I live. There's so many homeless and it's heartbreaking. And it's very sad. I saw a little boy on the back of the dock where I live at Publix laying down taking a nap, and he was homeless, and my heart went out to him. And I have grandchildren now, so it's just really sad. Most of the people where I live are the same way. And we had homeless staying with someone in the park, now they're gone, but we didn't say anything because they were homeless and they kept quiet, minded their own business. But you just kind of feel for people, and most people
if they're compassionate, they're gonna go out of their way to try to help you, you know? But like Jennifer and stuff, you know, they'll go out of their way. I will go out of my, you know, if they need some money or whatever, to take them somewhere, you've got a vehicle, you know, to help them. And that's just, it needs to be brought forward, like you were talking, this needs to be going forward in the community that we're in now. Yeah, it needs to get out there, so, you know, I can tell my story, but what's really the bottom line is like, what are we gonna do? I mean, we all have to work together, like you said, you know, and. Yeah, I don't think it'd be that hard to do, but I do agree with that right there. It's got to go out and where.
Okay.
The other people are gonna hear it, and that's where we're gonna start really making a really great process. And I do have ladies, I will get with you both on what I.
If I may, real quick, fast second compassionate, I hope everyone closed their car windows before coming in.
Well, it's too late now.
If not, your interior is clean. Okay.
During my experience, I've also found not only with the sorries, platitudes and excuses, is that unfortunately now in what I found anyway is because of the way that society and everything is, most people are in their own bubble. When I was living in my van, there was a guy that he lived in his own bubble that was at the property where I would have my van. And it was basically, he just did all of his stuff and there was nothing outside of his bubble. And unfortunately, a lot of people, when it comes to things like homelessness and stuff, a lot of people, if it's not in their bubble, they don't care. And that's a lot of the problem. So I do agree with the fact that we need to push something out there and it needs to be out there in a strong way.
A lot of them, that's their way of reasserting control over what's going on in their life. To control what they can. They feel powerless in what's going on.
Well, I've also found when it comes to people of a name like you know, Rick Scott or other people who have money and a lot of that money, the more money that you have, the more you get disattached to reality, where it's like, because those things don't affect you, you don't care. It's sad, but it needs to change. And I think that the committee here is going to be the best way to do that.
I'll piggyback off of him when it comes to the, like, Rick Scott. And I think that it would be a really good idea to have a list for us of our, representatives. And call them, you can call them every day. That's their job, to listen to us. And they work for us. And, you know, I think a list with a phone number of even the governor, you know.
I think I have.
Yeah, like wherever, I mean, even other counties, like, you know, like, and even the White House, like, us, we the people, and they work for us. And the more people, you know, like the saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, squeak, squeak. I'll keep the last part to myself.
Well, the other thing is too, is that I've had a lot of people, like, they stood there and listened to me last year when I was at the family cafe, but I also know that a lot of people play this little game like my mother used to play with me. It just listen to you and just enough to make you shut up and go away. Because that's what they want. They don't want to deal with it. When they're forced to deal with it, that's different. And it's sad, but it's.
Hey, Kat, right? You think you have the list of all the elected officials?
I think I made that list when we were researching the camping ban.
Okay,
I'll
If-
check and see.
if you want, that's great. Otherwise, if people want me to take that sign-in list, if you've got your email there, I can email all those contacts tomorrow. I can email you all of them for our local, for our local state representatives and senators, as well as the federal one.
Yeah, I think that's what I have.
Okay,
Good, because
Okay.
good, because I need it, because there's a governor summit on disabilities tomorrow.
Okay, so Kat, you wanna just, do you wanna do it or do you want me to do it?
Let me check and see if I
Okay.
have it.
And if you don't, let me know and
And
I'll
I'll
go
let
ahead
you
and do
know
it.
and we'll
Okay.
do it over. Yeah.
Sounds good. We can get that out tomorrow. So. And phone numbers.
Yeah, I'm gonna need one.
So I'd like to add, and when you are interacting with these government officials, respect and tone have a lot to do. Just because you feel like they might not be listening to you, don't let them take you out of character and, and feel like they're not listening.
That is, you can't be an asshole because I don't need you to shut down real quick.
Right,
And I've
right.
always been nice to everybody, but it's like.
And remind them that, they do work for us
Yeah.
and we appreciate their time for listening to us and hopefully that they'll share our, what we're talking to them about and with their colleagues and, cause it just, respect and tone goes a long way.
Like I said, I help people get somebody to help me. Otherwise, it was just gonna get important.
Okay, well, I guess I'll be the devil's advocate again. One stigma that I don't see us covering is the fact of where I understand people get depressed and they don't want to keep up on themselves, but also it creates a stigma of the general public. Just because you're homeless does not define you. It does not make you what you are.
Oh, yeah.
Keep your appearance up, take care of yourself, If you are sleeping somewhere, don't leave trash everywhere. Don't create a nuisance of yourself. A lot of neighbors will not mess with you if you're not creating a problem. Once the police get a complaint from a neighbor, they have to follow through. They have no choice. Even if they're totally supportive of you. Hey, he's a good guy, a person, or she, she's a good girl, If once they get a complaint, they must respond. They have no choice. But just because you're homeless, it should not define you. Doesn't mean that you're regressing to a Neanderthal state. Keep yourself up. I mean, if you had a house, wouldn't you be clean? Wouldn't you be trying to keep yourself groomed? You walk into a place trying to get a job and you look like you've been through Vietnam, I very much doubt they're gonna hire you. But it's that stigma also, you see somebody dirty, unkept, they just don't care. I get it. They're depressed. I get that. But start to rise yourself up a little bit and things will follow. What?
Have you seen the children that go to high school?
Yes, I have. And we don't have enough time for that dinner.
We need them to follow.
Well, I can't admit that you're right. I can't admit that you're right, because while I was living in my van, that did actually happen quite a few times, but, now that I got my home, then now that it's a lot better. And that's what I needed, and that's what I kept trying to scream at everybody, that's what I needed, I need to have a roof over my head, my own place, because of my disabilities and the way it is, I have to have a home for everything, and I don't
You
have.
feel better about yourself. You take care of yourself better and your whole general aura. Change.
Well, a lot of people don't understand how my mind works, and I have to have a home for everything, because if I don't, I got 10 TVs up here, all on the different channel, all
I
the
ain't
at once, man. I do. My whole life is.
You're my good friend, Silas, and I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole. But yeah, it doesn't define you. It doesn't have to define you, You were more than that. You were more than that before it happened. You're more than that now. You're more than that afterward.
I can just admit that it was driving me completely crazy.
Yeah. Anybody else would like the mic?
Anybody who's a veteran, Stacy Ray Simcox is an attorney at Stetson. And she's on 2 VA federal programs, and you can contact her at Stetson. I talked to her at Gulfport about a month ago. You can contact Stacy Ray Simcox if you're a veteran, and she will help any veteran for free. legal assistance, and she's part of two programs that based out of Tampa that help veterans. And Congresswoman Luna in Seminole, she will help people, and she has a federal attorney that I talked to when I was at Pinellas Hope, and he told me to go all the way up to the top and file complaints against Pinellas Hope. So you have Congresswoman Luna in Seminole that will help people, and Stacey Ray Simcox at Stetson University who will help any veteran for free.
Okay, turn the wheel one more time. We're in a sharing resources discussion. Okay? As far as food resources, any resources that you become aware of that you can share with the committee that we can also share with people that we speak to? Anyone? All right, I'll share with one. There's a 9th Street and Central Avenue. Good Samaritan is opening up a very similar to Trinity Cafe in September, I think they said it was, but they will be opening up a hot meal there every single day, starting then, down in that area, all right? Things are starting to work out, but yeah, they're still gonna keep the
Where's
food
that at
pantry.
Is it that Trinity going down?
9th and Central. Okay,
Gary,
Nice. That's better than nothing.
So,
Gary,
one of the things that the committee officers and I talked about when we met to plan today's agenda, is the importance of, like we talked about earlier, gathering resources, finding resources that maybe we're unaware of, and ensuring that people have that information. So one of the things that we talked about adding to agendas moving forward is resource sharing. So during every meeting, we will be asking members to bring resources to share with the committee. These can be resources that you have memorized, but I'm going to ask, write them down anyway, because when you write them down, it's easier to hand Megan and I a slip of paper than it is for Megan and I to hear it and make sure that we write it down. Even if you write it down when you come in. So what we're really, really, really looking for here are resources that people are unfamiliar with. We all know Salvation Army is down the street. We all know that Salvation Army One Stop is available. And if you don't, by the way, please let's talk about that because that's a great resource. We all know that St. Vincent de Paul is down the street. We all know about Trinity Cafe. Again, by the way, if I say any resources you're unfamiliar with, let me know. So we're not talking about those resources that we're all aware of, resources that are already in the yellow book, things like that. We're looking for new resources, things like I just found out Mr. Bubble's shower is going to be at Allendale United Methodist Church just this weekend. Is it the 14th? Is that Sunday? Saturday the 14th. That's a new resource to share. Mr. Bubbles is just coming over the bridge. They used to just do Hillsborough. Really excited that they're coming across the bridge to Pinellas. Things like when Trinity Cafe stopped doing showers, Northwest Church stopped doing showers. We all know that Northwest Church and Trinity Cafe are there, but we might not know about that important update. So what we're really, really, really hoping for is for the members of this committee and for the guests to next meeting bring some resources related to food, might be food pantries, might be hot meal service, might be groceries, that you can share with this committee. Program updates, program closures. Hopefully we're not bringing program closures, but they happen. And stuff that we just might not be aware of. This is how we make sure that we are finding resources, that we are sharing resources, that we are bringing new resources in. So that is really the goal of what we chatted about. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
All right. So that's really kind of the goal of what we're talking about. We do have a question here, and then Gary, you had a question as well. So
Now, everybody knows the church on Wednesday over at the Methodist on 94th and 90th and 49th. Well, they're gonna, from what I understand is they're gonna start getting some people to come in and have portable showers. Their own organization for that. They're gonna,
They were doing that and then they stopped.
yeah, well, they're gonna go back.
Shower down the shower.
They just don't know when.
Is that Fairview?
No, it's 94th and 49th, 90th and 49th, First Methodist.
Along those lines, what you were saying, Mary, about there's several counselors you named really quickly that I didn't really catch that would actually help veterans for free. If you could get that on paper and deliver that around, I know many veterans that would be able to use that service. Thank you.
Just so everybody's aware, if anybody runs into anything, I need a resource for dog food. That's what I actually do. Because I have a really hard time getting your food because it's extremely expensive.
That is pet resources, by the way, is something that we, I'd love to say have more awareness of, but we lack awareness of, I think in part because we lack resources in the community for pet resources. But that's definitely an important one.
Yeah, because some places don't understand that, even though my dog is like 60, 70 pounds, the allotment that I get from the Methodist church is enough for one meal. And
There's a lot of people who would be willing to donate to something like that, even more so for human beings if they were aware it was necessary.
Yeah.
YMCA in Oregon.
There used to be a pet food bag, but I don't know what happened to it.
Hank's, no, is it a Hank's Bark Box? Sounds right, but that also might be a thing that you pay for a subscription service.
Area.
It was a food bank for pets.
Yeah.
Where you could come and get pet food, but I don't know if it still exists. So we'll have to find
I know
out.
that there was something down in St. Pete Way somewhere, it was a place, you had to be living in the area or something.
Pardon me? Are you referring to Pet Pal?
It was a really long time ago, but I know that there was some place that was down in St. Pete area or something. You could get, it was a food pantry, you could get food and stuff there too. But in order to be able to go there and get anything, you had to live in a certain zip code, yeah. And I think I was only able to go there once because they felt bad and gave me food to one time, but it was like, you don't live there. And so, yeah, it's really hard. I mean, it's.
There is an animal shelter called Pet Pal on 22nd Street, down by the Art District. You can go in there with an ID and get food.
Where would someone that doesn't know find all this information?
Well, once we get it all together and we have this new information, you'd go to the resource guide to find it. Great question. Way to go full circle. Sorry, walking past you.
So like I have like a bunch of different, like resources and stuff, and one, I'm not sure how updated it is, Silas, but it says Daystar Life. They offer pet food. And, that seems to be the only one. But like I said, like this would be like a job just to like go through and make sure which ones are still.
I know with ASPCA, you can go there and get food.
Yes.
It's just, they have a tendency of badgering you about getting your animals figured neutered.
Right.
In fact, that's not happening here. You're okay.
I got pet food pantry. Share. Okay. So the Humane Society of Pinellas offers the pet food pantry Wednesdays 11 to 2, Thursdays 11 to 5, and Saturdays 11 to 2.
That's way up in Clearwater on 598.
Thank you. You don't have to do it.
Wednesday, 11 to 2.
Wednesday 11 to 2, Thursday 11 to 5, Saturday 11 to 2.
Yeah, I know where they are. You know where they are, right? That's in 3 days. I mean, yeah.
It might give you more just day. Too.
Are you all familiar with Beacon Street Ministries in Largo? So Beacon Street Ministries is, I'll have to look at, they're off Indian Rocks Road. Yeah, Adrian, thank you. They still have their open food bank. So anyway, I used to volunteer there. It's really nice because on Saturdays, and then it used to be Tuesdays or Wednesdays or something. They would pull all this fresh vegetables, all these cheese sandwiches, whatever was donated and picked up, and you just went and shopped for what you wanted. So it was not like drive-through and you get a box of okra and squash. It was, you get to choose what works for you, and there was dairy. So they're a good group, Beacon Street Ministries.
Yeah, they're okay. And then I carry. Have been there. Yeah. I do the bunch of it.
Oh, wow.
All right, going, we got about 4 or 5 minutes. Anyone else have anything else to add?
Just add abundant life church on with that too, with the food, a lot of vegetables, whatever you may need. And I've seen people take their pets up there. And those people are very loving. They don't turn anybody away at all. And I do know that they do help some of the people with their pets. That's on Belcher Road. 1550 Belcher Road.
North of Balmerton.
Right.
Okay, I know where it is. It's by the barber shop.
So I know we talked about the advocacy and, I'm co-chair of this advocacy committee for the COC, but if, I'm serious about helping people compose their story or a statement so we can get it out there. And so, maybe the executive committee here can think about a future meeting that we have that as the purpose of the meeting is to work on stories. And I don't know how many of you all get the agenda enough ahead of time, but I can send some samples stories of like, this could be read in 3 minutes, or this is a style, different styles. So you'd have something to think about, like, just different formats. It's always good to have an example, I think, when you're trying to do something, but, I'm here all summer. I have to check like the July week. I might be watching our grandchild, but I can work with y'all if it's something you want to do. I don't want to push it on anybody, but I just thought, you want to do it.
That's why I said mine, wow.
I think it would help the appeal for the public to, and it would cause more resources to come to the table if you change and refine those stories to where they how yeah, do it.
Still your own voice, all your own voice, but just.
And yes, we're suggesting homework.
I wasn't interested.
One thing I'd like to see people do some research, try to find out is, I'm not talking about a wave of it, but try and find a vet that for extreme cases, somebody that has a pet and that has normally if you can't take care of yourself, you really shouldn't be dragging a pet around, but things that happen, people have a four-legged security blanket. And, if there's something major comes up, with the vet once in a while would take on a case advocate to at least look at it, look, what is this bump? What's this? Try and find one that's willing to work like that.
They even have dogs.
So,
Right.
some people, that's their security blanket.
They're off.
And if that's what keeps them anchored, who are we to judge? So, and I said, the vet doesn't have to take in like 60, 70 cases a week, but once in a while, take one in and have it looked at. Or find one that's willing to work like that, I'll travel around and talk to them vets,
I know the one across the street has done that previously.
Oh, yeah? Awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly what I'm getting at,
About 2 years ago, but
Yeah.
she did step up and help somebody in
Awesome.
desperate needs.
You thought about the hospital was right there?
Yeah, as I said, I'm not trying to open the floodgate for anybody, but,
I get that information.
so, because, let's face it, sometimes, there are security blanket, and everything else is crashing around them. And not to mention, if you're focusing on taking care of an animal. I've personally, years ago, I had something happen, I won't go into detail, but I was told I had the worst case of PTSD I had, and I took care of an animal. Took care of everything.
But mental well-being, you can't put a, price or.
Yeah.
What a good idea for somebody.
We had somebody here from the library call and talk to her and make arrangements, and it worked out really well. So I think if somebody was willing to make the call on your behalf, she'd probably step up.
I just want to see, I want to check out, I want somebody to see
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah, I get it.
Everybody, if you'll excuse us, Michael, we have something for you.
So, at our, May, COC Board of Directors meeting, thank you. The COC Board Executive Committee, recognized the leadership of the LEAC committee, Lived Experience Advisory Committee. And, I wanted to present this, certificate to Michael, who wasn't able to attend that meeting. I was there for the most part virtually, but, Michael has been a great leader. And Michael sits on the executive committee as a representative of this committee. And I'll tell you, we've had some intense work over the beginning of this year. Almost weekly meetings, if not more than that, looking at our charter, going through leadership changes, and looking at the MOU. And Michael's been at those meetings and has contributed a strong voice for you, as well as just the executive committee work, and we appreciate that. But I appreciate Gary working real hard to get feedback on that homeless flyer with all the law enforcement. I know Mary, you helped him drive him around a little bit, and Kat for being a phenomenal secretary and keeping things on track. So we really appreciate it.
Dream centers are now carrying our flyer as of today. I went and talked to Gary Weiss, I think it is. He's one of the main managers, and he took like every one I had, like 75, 80 of them. So our flyers will now be there. And
All right. We're in edgewise here finally. We had a good meeting tonight. I appreciate leaders of the HOA and the CUC coming by, and wanted to know how we feel and how it actually helps us become better at being, an advisory committee. And that being said, I appreciate everybody coming by, and I hope to see everybody here next month. And keep the trends up, keep it positive, and people go forward for the rest of the year on a positive note. With that, if there's any no other business, we adjourn and close the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.